We are live. And
So,
Maria, just so you know, I have Kimberly's video queued up. I'd like to show it to the audience. I'll do a screen share later on this evening before we sign off, just to do another push for her awesome event coming up this summer. Oh,
yes, we
sorry.
can't wait. So for those of you who are new, going live for us means not just here, but we are streaming live on Facebook as well. And so you may not see a whole lot of faces on Zoom, but it doesn't mean that there's not a lot of faces and eyes and ears through Facebook. So we may get questions through that platform, and Ted keeps an eye on those as well, and he will post in the chat any questions that may come from that platform as well. So we can just focus on our time here versus looking at different platforms and chats at the same time. So that way we can keep the conversation going and not get distracted. So Annie, do you want to kick us off and get us started?
Absolutely. I was checking Facebook to see how we were doing on our live feed. We are live, but we don't have very many viewers. I usually give them a few minutes to get in. We have our regulars who also watch us on Facebook. I am so excited for you guys to join us today. We are going to talk about all things fundraising with AMCSI. Of course, I have your normal announcements and all of that fun stuff that we normally do at the very beginning while we get warmed up and get everybody in here. Very thankful for each and every one of you joining us here today. Here in a minute, we'll all introduce each other, or we'll all introduce ourselves. Sorry, this hat must be like squeezing my brain cells. Y'all, this is a conference prop for the 80s prom.
I told you,
Um,
just wear it. It suits you.
so Ted and I were doing a little bit of research earlier. So there is 86 days until our 19th annual AMC conference.
Crazy.
That is crazy. There is still time to register. There is still time to book your room. So really excited about that and seeing all of our AMC families in Atlanta, Georgia this summer. Still a lot of 80 rooms, so please book those as soon as you can. We are still collecting items for the silent auction as well as wish list. Wish list. That's always a tongue twister every
Wish
week.
list Wednesday.
Wish list
Wish List
Wednesday.
Wednesday.
We still have a few items on there. Would love for you to contribute. I try to do a shout out every week or maybe twice a week to thank you guys personally. Sometimes the wish list items don't have a name. So if you did donate something to that, we appreciate it. We love the support of our community. And let's see, what else? Oh, all of my other items are all the ongoing fundraising items, and we will get to that because that's what we're talking about today. So I'm excited. I'm excited for new faces joining us, and of course to talk all things fundraising with AMCSI. Maria, take it away.
Okay. Well, Annie is the star of the show, as you can see, not only with her wonderful hat, but getting us everybody really excited about conference and everything to come. She did leave one thing out that's going to happen before conference because it doesn't fit the fundraising piece, but it is very important for everybody to remember, and that is AMC Awareness Day. So we already have some people working on proclamations and turning bridges, lighting them up in blue, and landmarks in your cities. And so I know that we're all very excited for the conference. It's like a big family reunion and homecoming and prom and everything at once. But I don't want to miss this opportunity for everybody to just remember Awareness Day. And if you have it in you, have a contact. If you can request a proclamation, a photo, light up a location. That will be June 30th. So wonderful time and opportunity to work on that. So even less days before we get there. So just a reminder, let's not skip that anniversary just because we're so excited. And tonight is a great topic. I see Anna's joining us as well. We have some meetups, some events popping up in different parts of the country. And we are so excited and so blessed to have people in the community like Anna herself, who is taking on a huge challenge by hosting a 2-day event in Missouri There's other meetups happening as well. And I know Anna will talk more about this. Not only is it a meetup for the sake of bringing people together, building camaraderie, creating awareness, and also bringing families together and building friendships and support as a result of that. But she's piggybacking on that with a run/walk the next day. So that ties into today's discussion because there's so many ways that we can fundraise together. And so we love the topic because it's one that allows us to advance our mission, create opportunities to give back to the community. We already offer a lot of grants. For those of you who are not aware or familiar or may have forgotten, they're on our website. But we do offer travel scholarships, college scholarships, medical travel, adoption, um, my goodness, what else do we have, Ani? I'm forgetting now. Research. We
Mm-hmm.
have there's a new one that we changed for
Like
accommodations
the
as well.
disability grant.
Yeah, there's a disability grant. And so and we keep coming up with new ones. So the more funding that we're able to tap into, the more ways that we give back to the community based on what we know you all need and what you reach out to us for. So we listen and we read every message, every comment, every phone call. Whatever you need, we try to either connect you with resources or fundraise for it. And the more of you who have a specific need in mind, then it will help inform us of what we can do in terms of changing the funding, changing the programs, changing the scholarship so it can be as accessible as we need it to be so everybody can get the help that they need and they're hoping for. So that's our goal, the submission to be a resource to all of you, not just the awareness. So I'll shut up with that and let the introductions continue. But there's going to be a theme today. It's all about fundraising and how we can do it together. Ed,
Awesome.
you want to go next?
I mean, it's pretty much, you guys pretty much covered it. You know, we're all talking about the fundraising capabilities, and you're going to hear some interesting new fundraisers that are coming up with Anna, and you're going to hear about the adaptive sports setup with what they're doing with conference. And you know, it's all. So I'd say let's just get right to it and get into their stories and hear what they got to say.
Okay.
Anna, let's hear about your event coming up.
Thanks, guys. Can you hear me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah, so you know, I'm a little nervous about it. It's our first one. Um, but I think if you think about it too much, you'll never do it. And I took inspiration from the people that have already done it. So kudos to them, and my hat is off to them because there's a lot of work, and they've been very successful at it, like Dylan Stash, the 253 and Me, of course, and oh, there's another one that I just forgot, but yeah, there are a few of them. Rogers Run, of course. So all of them, I've been picking their brain and seeing, okay, how can we fundraise? This is the perfect opportunity to try to bring awareness to AMCSI or just AMC people and AMCers, the AMC community, and not just awareness, but also it's a great way to shine the light and to ask for money. Basically, this is it, asking for money. So I've put together a flyer for each of the people that are participating in the run, and I'm going to send it to them with a QR code and their little story, just one or two sentences saying what it is that inspires them. And they can go off on social media and just post that, and hopefully they'll get a lot of support. Um, it's really eye-opening how some organizations that I think of as big, for example, here in St. Louis, there's one that's called Paraquad. Paraquad is an organization that is truly just for people with physical disabilities. And they have a gym that is all adaptive gym. and they also work with a lot of the hospitals here to develop different I don't know, facilities for people with disabilities. And so I thought of them as big, and I asked the president, how do you fundraise, or what are your biggest fundraisers? And she said, surprisingly, one or two or three people like just regular people that are passionate about the cause are the major contributors to the fundraising activities. So that was completely eye-opening to me. She didn't say it's this business or this bank, or so everybody's different, and so they just have to hear our story. And the more people we tell, the more aware we bring this to light, um, the more people will, become involved and spread the word and find these little niches that are going to be our niches and, our people, our voices. So that's it. I don't really have much else to say except, just uh, I'm shameless to just go out and just ask for money. I mean, the worst thing that can happen is get a no. Just get a no.
I
So,
think one of the coolest things with what you're doing too is kind of similar to what Marshall does with his event, is where your campaign, you have it set up so that people can create their own teams and create their own peer-to-peer fundraising. And it's actually a great way to, as you said, spread the word of awareness, where they can create teams and then they have their own groups, and when they do that through the campaign, it actually gives them, emails them their own page that they can then share to their group of people, and they can get their people in and to participate. Because the key really here is the participation, right? So with this type of setup, it allows a peer-to-peer type of campaign, which is a lot what you see a lot of these days. A lot of people doing campaigns where it's not just the organization doing one campaign and saying donate to us. It's them talking about what it is, and then talking about how you can get your friends and family, and how you can get your businesses, how you can get your companies involved. And that's really the important part, is getting the involvement, because the involvement what follows the involvement is the people that then donate, the companies that then donate. So it's really just the involvement and the awareness and the topics of what it is. So that's crucial to what it is that AMC and me is doing. And it's very similar to what Marshall rolled out last year too. So it's nice to see that type of campaigning going, because I do believe that it works well.
So I know that there are a lot of different ways to fundraise, and Anna, I think everybody knows you. I mean, who can possibly not know you? But do you want to share what your linkage is? What links you to AMCSI?
well,
Everybody has a different story, and you like.
Yeah. Well, my story is, it's kind of like my children's story. It's so funny because I told Townsend, my oldest, you have to say two sentences here, what inspires you and what ties you to AMCSI. And he said, I'm going to start crying now, but he said, the AMCSI have become my family and my friends. And,
Aw.
so slowly by surely, I'm the wife of Harold, but I've also have grown to love everyone that I've met in all these conferences. And it's just, you feel that you have to do something. And whether it is successful or not, we'll see, but you just have to, you feel the need to do something. And that's how I feel. I feel that, I've grown to love people in AMCSI, and they've become my family too. So, like you would do for a friend next door, your sister, your brother. And why not? I have some time that I can try and do something, whether it's like I said, whether it's successful, we'll get to see. It's the first year. You have to, you know, develop and ramp up a little bit and learn from your mistakes. So hopefully, um, it'll take off. We'll see.
I
And you following.
absolutely go ahead, Maria.
No, I was gonna say that, Anna, you're using, some great models that are proven also. So
Mhm.
you are creating your own event in a region. Missouri, in this case, we have not had any, but you were very selective with the model. You're using a set the peer-to-peer campaigning, empowering people to establish their own teams for the walk/run to fundraise in support of the event. So there's a multiplier effect that we're building into that. So that's the power of community, and that's the power of numbers. And I love the fact that in the conversation today, which I feel like we're not even going to have enough time already, but between what Kimberly's doing, which is very creative, and then Aaron, who comes from the corporate perspective, I think that collectively we should be able to cover enough options for people to consider and realize how it's like a little grain of salt, even sand, right? It just adds up. On its own may not seem like a whole lot, but collectively we really can make a big impact. And that's what tonight is all about. So
Absolutely. And I just wanted to comment that I love Townsend's heart. He is just such a sweet boy, and I love that he wants to do amazing things with our community. I know you shared a cute story about him and Ollie and how they bonded at conference,
They love
and
each other.
he wants right, and he's wanting to fundraise for him. So that's another topic. But I think that we have, even in our community, young, passionate folks that want to do good, and they're seeing a need in the community. And we need more of that. We need those tender hearts to really to make moves for us. And so with that passion that Anna has, I'm going to turn it over to Kim, because she is equally as passionate, and let Kim introduce everyone to her story really quickly, and then just her fundraising needs as well.
Thanks. So yeah, I was introduced to adaptive sports about almost 3 years ago now, and quickly fell in love and have done so many different things, but my favorite ones are the tetra ski, snow skiing, and wake surfing, and mountain biking. Those are my three favorite things, probably because they have the most adrenaline. But in my pursuit of all of the adaptive sports, I have noticed that there is not a lot of representation for people with AMC. I think it's out there for like wheelchair soccer and that kind of thing, but as far as the other sports, I just don't see a lot of us out there. And so I approached AMCSI early last year and was like, we need to change this and bring adaptive sports to the conference so people can know that it's available, and the adaptive sports agencies can know that we are here and we want to be a part of it. And so we're coming to the conference, and we're going to bring wake surfing and mountain biking and rock climbing, hopefully. And so far, my fundraising efforts have been all through donations. I was able to get in contact with Centurion Boats and Nautique Boats, and they have donated 4 boats for us to use for the wake surfing competition, or not competition. Just kidding, we're just playing. Um, um, but so they've donated all that, and then I have adaptive agencies throughout the country that are willing to donate their time. High Country Adaptive Sports is coming from Arizona all the way to Atlanta to share their expertise on mountain bikes. Trails Adaptive is coming from Utah to share their expertise on high tech adaptive equipment that we can use. The Tetra ski, you don't have to use any part of your body except sip and buff if that's all you have. And so they're coming to share that technology and what's coming down the road for people with very complex disabilities. Arizona Adaptive Water Sports is coming to help with the water sports events. And so all these people are coming together because they realize the importance of adaptive sports and what it can do for a person's well-being and mental health and all of it. They know it, and they want to share it with us, and so that we can be more a part of the adaptive sports community. Fundraising has been a little bit harder for me. So We are still needing, I think if we can raise around $1,000, we can make this whole event happen. Everybody else has been so generous and has donated just their time and their efforts and their equipment for us. I think just because they know how important it is. So that's all I got.
Thank you for sharing, Kim.
Yeah.
And what you bring into the conference, I can tell you, and I'm not even as connected, so I can only imagine how much greater it is. It's like the talk of the town.
Is it?
Everybody's excited about what you bring in because it's so unique and so special. And we really hope that we can make everything work because you bring in a whole new set of nuances, but more than anything, you bring in hope
Yeah.
because sports is not something that people would jump into automatically, right? With a condition like AMC. And so your ability to demonstrate how anything is possible and not just one, two, but three sports. So we can't
Mhm.
wait to highlight you at the conference.
Oh,
We're
thank
very
you.
excited.
I'm very excited. It's going to be great. I'm so excited because it just makes all the difference. So, yeah.
I can see Harold. Hello, the famous couple.
Harold.
So Aaron, do you want to talk about yourself real quick and your connection to AMC? And again, you bring a different perspective, as I mentioned before, the corporate piece. Oh my God, Harold.
Banjo.
You know we love that dog. You can't.
Look, I'm happy to talk, but as I say on my
She's
work call,
distracting us.
cats and kids and dogs get introductions and always get center stage. So whenever it's pets, we put them up. So yeah, no. Hey, all, it's great to meet you all and great to be here, of course. And yeah, the connection that I have and Maria, you said talk about myself, but of course I want to talk a little bit about my daughter. My wife, Jessica, and I, we live in Maine. This is not the background of Maine. Trust me, Maine doesn't have cities like this. I'm down in Atlanta for work this week, so still on the East Coast, but wanted to say that our daughter Phoebe, who was born in 2013, and through some stroke of luck that is really has helped us throughout our journey with AMC, was diagnosed really in the first week with AMC, and it helped us in many ways, but not the least of which was to number one, get connected with other families and with other services. And one of the things that I think has been unique about my journey is that as I've traversed my professional career, I always wondered, like you hear these stories about people who in their professional lives are very adept at intersecting some of their personal causes with those things that they do on a day-to-day basis. And it took a long time for me to make that connection. And I'll say here that speaking from I think the perspective that I have these days, which is one of largely the corporate world and the work that I do within a software company, is to say that when you find the right organization and you find a personal connection and you're able to leverage those really connections within an organization to make, frankly, like, I don't want to say it's a selfish use, but it's really saying, let's find a way to work together to your employer. And that's something that I've been able to do at my current employer, Workday. And I've been at smaller employers too. I mean, again, I'm born and raised in Maine. My connection to this audience here is through Marshall Johnson. I understand many of you know Marshall. Marshall's a native Mainer as well. And Marshall and I connected last fall. And I've traversed all of these companies and organizations in my career, small, regional ones, local ones in Maine, and now I work for a large worldwide software company. But one of the things that I've always found as a door that's been open is when you go within one of these organizations, whoever your employer may be, and say, hey, I've got something going on, like Anna mentioned and like Kim mentioned, and we need support. We're looking for money. And you don't need to use euphemisms or to be indirect about it. You can say, we're supporting a cause. Here's the cause. Here's my personal attachment to the cause. And boy, is it really hard for an employer once you say, my daughter or my close family member or my loved one is impacted by this condition and otherwise lives with it day to day. And we're trying to do some things to expand her horizons in my case. That's the sort of thing that an employer, they're not going to close the door in your face, right? And so I use that to my advantage. I've got, of course, years and years of training in terms of talking to people and being able to get out there, but you don't need to do that. You don't need to be that kind of a person who's good at public speaking or in any way good at even those introductions. And I think I hit on something that you said earlier, Anna, that it's those onesie twosies where you come in and you're able to walk in to the office of your boss or to the office of the case of my company right now, it's large enough so that they've got an internal organization that manages within like a foundation to donations and things like that. And so there's a process for that. But even in companies and organizations, you know, I spent many years in public higher education. They don't have anything like that in public higher education, but I was always able to garner support for the little things that we were doing in the community, and in particular to help our daughter in this case. So there are a few ways as I got prepared for tonight and thinking about like some of the things to talk about for those of you listening in and those of you in the audience, thinking that there are a few ways that generally organizations, if you think about it from an employer side or from, you know, an organization side, the really, I think, three main ways in which you can find a connection. Number one is, like I just mentioned, my company happens to have a really direct route, like a formal path to be able to solicit internally. In my case, I think I mentioned to Annie Marie and others, like, hey, they have a matching program. I can donate and get a match. It is well advertised in some organizations, not so much in others. And companies of all shapes and sizes love this, and particularly for-profit companies, because then they can bundle this together in terms of a tax advantage for them. And like, I hate to get down to the nuts and bolts because I think that we all agree that people giving from the heart is always the best. But when you're talking to your company that is largely, in some cases, designed to generate revenue, it does help to add that in at the end and say, hey, I've got this donation. By the way, you probably have some sort of a mechanism to include this in some sort of a charitable donation program. So that's number one. Number two is that there are often ways internally, and I'm researching this as some on the call know, to say, how can you partner with us? If it's not writing a check to the organization, if it's not helping out AMCSI, how can we partner together to get the word out there? Would you be willing to, for instance, in my case, Workday, would you be willing to sponsor a part of a conference coming up? Would you be willing to sponsor an activity? And Kim, I'm just going to say, like, you spoke to my heart. I grew up racing mountain bikes. I love it. I'm so happy to hear that mountain biking is there, and I'm familiar with the organization in Arizona. And so that's good. I know they've helped some friends of mine as well. So that was really cool to hear. Thanks for mentioning that. Yeah. So those indirect sort of asks as well can help too, because look, at the end of the day, it is really good visibility, both public and, again, I think it's very genuine for most organizations to get their logo out there and to provide some sort of a sponsorship. And yes, we're talking about remuneration, right? We're talking about giving money to sponsor. We get your logo up here. And there are other ways to do it. Kim's example of giving the boats. And I think the last way that I thought about in doing this is internal. I have a vast network that I can tap inside of my company currently, because there are so many programs for it. We actually have an internal platform for it where I can reach out and touch other employees, others in the organization, say, hey, here's a cause that I like to support. Would you like to support that? And garner some support for that. And it's really easy for me to say this, of course, coming from a position of working for a company that's got 20,000 employees across the world. But again, I employed some of these tactics even when I was working for smaller companies or local companies or a regional bank or a public higher education institution. These were all ways in which you could get both financial support, and if not direct financial support, one of the things that was really important for us as a family growing up, when Phoebe was growing up rather, was to make sure that we could get the time that we needed to be able to support her in all of the activities and really the learning experiences we had when she was young. And in that way, you're also getting the word out. And then when you come to tap people later on and say, hey, I'd really like you to be able to support this in a more tangible way. How can we do this? They know about it already, right? Because if the first ask is coming in cold to say, I want to explain to you this condition, I want to talk to you about the organization that supports the people, that can be a long spiel to get through. What you really want to do is get to a place where you've already had that preamble. So it took me a while, as parents out there may know, it took me a while to get to the point where I was really comfortable talking openly about our daughter and what she had gone through and what her life is like. And in many ways, you know, you kind of hone that stump speech, if you will, and then you get used to talking about it. And then when you do come for the ask, people have already heard it and they already know and they understand and they say, hey, yeah, I'm absolutely willing to do that. So a very specific instance of this is that I've been I'd love to say that Marshall wrote me into this, but it's not true. Marshall didn't convince me at all. I'm going to do this bike ride with him this year. I'm going to help him in some ways. It also will help me get back in shape. So a little selfish piece there as well. But when I go to talk to people and say, hey, are you willing to help fund this and to help put some money behind this? They already know because I've already talked to them about it. So it makes that pitch, if you will, a whole lot easier. So yeah, that's where I come from. That's where our family comes from. And I'm certainly excited to be a part of the conversation. And no matter how big, no matter how small, organizations, and sometimes in the case of smaller local organizations and companies, they really do love to put in the support. And not only is it a good look for them, I think it's pretty genuine most of the time.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, Aaron, because the common theme or the common denominator in what you shared is the fact that any one person can champion for what we're doing, right? And for our families and our community, the big part that we're hoping that they'll take away from your piece at least, because Anna's putting a whole event and not everybody may feel comfortable doing that. Kim's coming from sports, not everybody may be connected with sports. So this is about providing options that speak to everybody. But you are coming from a perspective whereby I think the vast majority of our community could relate to, because for everybody who is currently employed, right? It's a matter of becoming a champion for the community, for their loved ones, or for themselves if they are the ones impacted by AMC, and talking to the human resources department and asking the question, is there anything that we can do? Is there a match program, third party, in-house? That's how the conversation starts, and then we can partner with you to find out what can we put in place, how do we build from there. So a simple question can really unleash unlimited opportunities. If the organization or the employer has a civic responsibility, a social responsibility person, or a chief diversity officer, or a diversity team on site, those are indications that they're more apt to helping with minority groups or underserved groups, which is what we will fall under. And a lot of times there's funding set aside for that as well. And then the community relations team that may be looking at how to get the word and the brand out in the community. So there really are multiple avenues. So one individual can really make a huge impact by championing for us as a community with one organization and helping open those doors and helping us figure out which one of those options may be a viable one. And then we can come in and partner with you in terms of having those discussions to figure out how we can leverage that, knowing that the organization would not have built those systems and put those in place, hired those people in those positions, or even set money aside if their intent was not to give it away. So if we start thinking that way, we're looking at the cup half full versus half empty. It also helps with removing some of those negative self-talk that we all tend to have when we're stepping into a role that we're not comfortable, right? Not everybody will say, I feel like I'm selling. I don't know that I want to push that. I don't feel comfortable asking. But if we start to think about the fact that those roles and responsibilities, those buckets of dollars and those systems are in place for the sole purpose of giving that money away to deserving causes, then it's a matter of making that connection collaboratively. So for everyone individual within our community who is willing to take that role like you are doing with your organization, imagine how many companies we could potentially sign up as sponsors and have joined this movement, create the awareness, create the support, which will then we will turn back into the community for more support for those in need. So Aaron, anything I know that you covered a few different buckets within the corporate environment. Any advice that you will have for individuals who now may be thinking, oh, I didn't think about asking my employer. I work for a small company. Maybe the president of the company will write a check because they love my kid. Or I work for a big company. My God, that can be so confusing. Where do I even start? So I mentioned a few. You may have some more. I mentioned HR. I mentioned community relations. I mentioned social responsibility, and I mentioned diversity and inclusion as four typical areas that will want to support organizations like ours. Can you think of any others that may relate to people?
So I think there are two there that were important, and you did put a mention of this in, but a community relations team, particularly for a local company, right? If you're employed by someone who's locally, often in many cases will have someone who either handles community relations as a part or maybe even their entire job. And no matter what, it's always a good look. And like you said, if you can't find someone internally who has a role specific to what we're talking about here, you can almost always reach out to someone within, and forgive the term, but within your leadership chain, right? To say, like, I've got a supervisor, I have a boss, I have someone runs this company. And I think the other thing that I've made good use of in recent years is for companies for which I work who have boards, right, and trustees in the case of public higher education institutions, those are places where I've gone to say, hey, I want you to hear me out. And as a baseline, one of the things that I try to take away as a tenant is I know that organizations like this, and to speak a little more directly to it, we're competing for a pile of money that is there, as you said, Maria, to be donated, but it is finite. And these organizations set this aside as a part of the budgeting process. Some companies and organizations are large enough that they set aside separate foundations and split them out. That's wonderful. But no matter what, the money is finite. And so they might have thousands of people coming to talk to them about other conditions or other support organizations that support, let's say, more broadly known types of service groups. What I would say here, though, is that I've decided to, because it's not going to be, even within a company of 20,000 people like Workday, there won't be 1,000 people asking for money for AMCSI. So we can't bring the numbers, but I can be the loudest. And I think that being the loudest in a positive way and to say, hey, I want you to hear about this, I want you to know about this. And the other thing I would say to TAP is that in organizations and companies of a certain size, for all the right reasons, they sometimes have support groups internally. And I know that some of my recent employers have had those where I can reach out to others. And not only are they support groups where you can discuss with your coworkers and colleagues some of the things that may be happening, and hey, we're having challenges as a family with this because we're impacted by this particular condition, and you can have those conversations. It also is another great place to trade fundraising back and forth. And we've done that. And I've done that both in the local scale and, and on a wider scale as well. And again, I think the premise here, at least for me, is to make sure that when I do come for an ask, it's not the first time they've heard me talk about it. It's very hard for people to turn you down when they know your family, when they know your story, when they know, for instance, when I was working at a local bank, everyone knew my daughter because I'd bring her into work, right? And we'd have those connections. And so when you go around and you put the ask out, it's there and known. So those are the pathways. And I think, the biggest piece is, does it feel a little bit like selling? It probably does, right? At the end of the day, I'm not very good at it. I'm a born introvert, but at the same time, if I can learn it, anyone can. And I think that's really what you need to hold yourself to. And at the end of the day, the onus is really on the other person. People have a very hard time saying no to these requests in many cases. So I think I would hold that out as the glass half full part of the equation that you mentioned, Maria.
Thank you. And you had us fooled. You call yourself an introvert, but I got to say, you're doing a phenomenal job selling it. So kudos to you. But I appreciate you outlining that, because that is really what can transform the organization. We have 14,000 people just on Facebook. I think it's at 4,000 or 5,000 people on Instagram. We have hundreds of members, between 400 and 800 people who attend the conference every year. Imagine, if only a sliver of those individuals were to say, hey, I work for a company and I can do more of that. Can you help me with a script? Or Maria, Ani, can you guys join me on a call? I feel like I could use the support. I feel like I could use some data to help strengthen my ask. We're here for you. And we're more than willing to do that. And so it's really a matter of making those connections with the employers, helping identify where do you all work, who are the employers that you're with, what is their affinity for support in the community, what are the values, and what kind of themes. A lot of times they call them themes. This is what we like to support. Some may say children, homelessness, disabilities, veterans. And that's a great starting point for the conversation, because if you know what types of causes they're focusing on, then you know how to tailor the comment and the ask as well. Another critical thing that you mentioned was the internal groups. For some organizations, it could be a resource group. And those will be affinity groups. So they will have a disability group, a veteran group, a Hispanic group, an LGBTQ plus group. And so by knowing if you're, and I'm talking to the community at large now, of course, by knowing what organizations have those infrastructures in place, each one of those groups will have someone who takes the lead, is the chair of the group. So you don't have to come and present to the whole group, just make that connection and say, hey, we have a disability resource group. I wonder how many disabled employees are in the company. Maybe we can come up with a campaign that they will want to get behind and support, because my family is also represented, and my child or myself, I could use that support. So we can really help tailor that message and make that connection. What we do not have and will never have just as ourselves, because we're small and mighty, is the instant connection with the companies. So this is our biggest ask of us to the community. If you can help us make those connections, we will in return help you walk through that process so that it can be successful and empower all of you to give back and help the community as well. And it is such a wonderful feeling to see when that comes full circle, and that most people tend to realize, it was not as hard as I thought, because the systems are in place. We just need to identify what organizations, what are the systems, what are they looking for, and helping make that match. Would you agree with that, Aaron?
Yeah. Once you start to have these conversations and those affinity groups, as you said, and I think the ways to make those connections are absolutely the way to do that. And then, these days it's maybe not so much the in-person like hallway water cooler conversation, but we do a little bit of that virtually as well. And having those conversations just to get, and I don't want to say just the awareness, but the awareness and the conversation always starts with your personal connection. And once you're able to do that, again, I think it just leads right into when you come in and you have a conversation where you're looking for something a little more tangible. And I really like how you put it, Maria, to say that you and others here, and Ani as well, willing to kind of help and facilitate or even like partner, right, with people who need to make those asks, because that can be pretty daunting, particularly for those of us who are in large organizations and large companies. We don't know necessarily how to have those conversations. My day-to-day job isn't soliciting donations from people, right? And so going in and talking about that, it's always nice to have someone there, by your side. But the mechanisms are there; they're in place for a reason. And I think that the real thing to do is to never be afraid about the ask. And for any company like the ones that I've worked for in the past, or others, of course, that even my wife who works in public K through 12 education, when you go in and you want to provide some sort of a background, the materials are here. We can absolutely, I think, have those conversations as informed either parents or loved ones, or even those impacted by AMC. And that makes, I think, a lot of headway for all of us overall. Like, you lay the groundwork a little bit, you start to have the conversations, and then you start to get very specific. And I think that's the point. You need to make the turn from the general into, and here's what I'd like to do, and here's what you can support, and here's the impact. And then you also have to come, I think, with the other hand to say, I've got an ask, but here's what it's going to do for you as an organization as well. And that helps to balance that a little bit. Is it a bit of a transaction? Sure, it certainly is. But at the end of the day, I think that, both sides can win. And if there's some mutually beneficial partnership, then those are the sorts of things that companies are very much interested in supporting internally.
So Aaron, you hit the nail on the head with the storytelling, and also not only that, but also providing the resources. And I think that's one of the things that we're working with our families that have previously hosted fundraiser for us. We had talked in our fundraising committees about the possibility of creating a blueprint, and really giving our families the step-by-step guide to start your own fundraisers, to start your own events. But there's also so many other ways to fundraise for AMCSI. And I know that we talked briefly with Lisa from Rogers Run, who actually raised $124,000 for AMCSI over 12 years. So that is incredible, incredibly dedicated. She shut down an entire city in New York. And so we know that there are more families out there who really want to, tell their story, fundraise for a great organization, and really get out there. They just don't have the tools, and I'm hoping soon we'll be able to provide all of those tools as we learn, the do's and the don'ts. So, and hopefully we'll have some experts like Jenny with Dylan's Dash and Marshall with 253 for AMC. So
I would love to hear from Kim, because I know you've done some fundraising as well. But before we transition to you and then your video as well, I wanted to mention real quick that there are so many things that we can do for fundraising. And Anna, I believe I sent it to you at one point, right? Like a list of 73 opportunities. Maybe we need to put that on the website for people to see and get inspired from a lemonade stand to a bake sale at the school, to whatever the option may be, or whatever appeals to you, whatever fits your comfort level, and wherever it is that you may be starting at. We're talking about 253, which is a big event. We're talking about Anna's 2-day event, which is big. We're talking about a bowl-a-thon. We're talking about Rogers Run, Dylan's Dash. Those are big events. Not everybody wants to start big. We can have the same outcome and impact by pursuing some of the options that Aaron was talking about, which is why we're so thankful that you're here with us today to showcase that, because it is turnkey. The systems and the funding is in place already. We just need to make the ask. But there's everything else in between. So Annie and Ted, let's connect later and post that list that I know I've shared with Anna at one point. And maybe that'll inspire other people as well. Every little grain of salt, as we said before, can help the big picture. Kim, I would love to hear about your fundraising, because I know you've been doing a lot of that, and Annie tells me that you are quite the expert as well.
Oh, I don't know about expert. This is actually my first time ever trying to do anything like this. So, expert, I would not say so, but I think what I have been able to do has been just sharing my story with the people that matter and are willing to donate. So, for me, I was able to connect with the agencies in Arizona where I'm from. And I told them, I was like, I'm the only one in this agency that has AMC, and that's not okay. Like, we need to have more representation, and we have this opportunity to go to this conference and bring it. And they got on board. And knowing that they're a nonprofit and we're a nonprofit, they are willing to donate their time. And so I think that's where my fundraising has come into play, where I've just been able to appeal to people's heart and realize that this is very much needed. Yeah, I actually have very little in actual money, but in donated time and equipment, it's about $42,000. So it's not a little bit. So, but it's all just been about sharing my story and what it has done for me. I was living in Arizona, and because of adaptive sports, I now live in Utah and am heavily involved in helping people with disabilities and helping enrich their lives through adaptive recreation. And so I know it can change lives, and I know it can bring about way better mental health. And so I think I've just been able to talk to people about that. Centurion Boats has just barely started to tap into the adaptive division. And so I was able to participate in their wake surfing competition last fall and in April last year. And so I was able to connect with the person that is able to like provide the equipment that we need. Same with Wake for Warriors. Wake for Warriors is a veteran owned and run group, and they're donating their house and their boats and their people because they know the value of adaptive sports and what it can do for people. So I think it's just a matter of like sharing your story and how it has impacted you and how it can impact other people. So that's how I've been able to do it.
And Kim, so from my understanding, you need to fundraise about $1,000 to pay for the Catalyst Sports fee, as well as the 700 or 750 for the gas for the 2 boats. Is that correct?
So again, it was through the kindness of their hearts, Catalyst, not Catalyst Sports yet, but Centurion and Nautique, they're donating all the gas. And so we don't need that. We
Okay.
need the $1,000 for the mountain biking and the rock climbing in order for that to happen. So, and I spoke with them today, and they're trying to figure out how they can also help donate time if they can. But we are coming at the 4th of July weekend, so there's a whole lot of people and logistics and stuff like that they need to figure out, which does cost money. So
Okay.
yeah, I
And
think
Kim, if anybody is watching at home and wants to help, how can they donate directly to this very special event for our AMCers who we do have a lot signed up. So
Yes, we do have a lot, and I would hate to not provide that for them. There's a link on that video I think that you're gonna show that they can donate directly to it, that link. So
awesome.
it's through Arizona Adaptive Water Sports. So if you go onto their website, you can get there through them. They were gracious enough to set up the website, and they're holding the money for us. So
And that link is also on the website too, on the conference page, on the Adaptive Sports page. So we
yes.
have that out there. It's on the homepage of the conference page, and all of the information about the different types of activities, is all there, and how to sign up, the forms directly right there. So please check it out and definitely get involved.
Do we
And
have any spots that are not that are like sold out, quote unquote sold out or filled?
not yet, not yet.
yet,
We still, I think mountain biking and rock climbing have been the most popular ones that have been signed up for. But if I could push wake surfing, I promise you'll never go back. Like it is
You know,
so
You know,
much.
I said it a couple weeks ago. I'm surprised that it hasn't been, because it's gonna be hot in Atlanta, like hot,
Yeah,
like July hot in Atlanta. I
humid,
would,
hot
if
and
I could,
humid.
I would want to be in the water. That's all I know.
yeah, yeah. And I don't know, Ted, I think you could do it if you wanted to.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I got 14 reasons in my spine telling me the exact opposite.
We're still trying to convince Ted to at
I
least get
know,
on
I'm
the boat.
trying. Yeah.
All
Yeah.
right, let me share my screen and hopefully you guys can hear the audio okay on this. Let's see if I have it still.
While you pulled that up, Ted, did we get any questions?
No, not yet.
Okay.
Okay, let's see. Hold on one second, y'all.
Hi, I'm Kim Kolstad. I'm an advocate for people with disabilities. I'm excited to be this year's keynote speaker at the AMC conference in Atlanta, Georgia. I was invited to talk about how adaptive sports has changed my life. I'm excited to share my adaptive sports story, but I'm more excited for you to experience it. That's why I'm bringing adaptive sports to the conference. You can wake surf with Arizona Adaptive Water Sports and Wake for Warriors on Centurion and Nautique boats. You can mountain bike and rock climb with High Country Adaptive and Catalyst Adaptive Sports. You will meet specialists from across the country who can guide you on your own adaptive sports journey. If you're excited to start your own adaptive sports journey, then please join us in reaching our fundraising goals. Arizona Adaptive Water Sports has agreed to host our fundraising campaign to bring adaptive sports to the AMC conference in July. The link is below. Please share this link with the people in your life who love you and want the best for you. Tell them what you're excited to do, and then ask them to help make it happen. I believe in the power of community, and with your help, we can make a real impact. Let's ensure that at this year's AMC conference, you don't just hear about something that can change your life. This year, you can experience a life-changing event. I'm Kim Kolstad. I have AMC and I'm an athlete. Together, let's make this conference an unforgettable celebration of ability, resilience, and the transformative power of adaptive sports. Thank you so much for your support.
Good job. That was beautifully done.
Thank you. That was many, 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 many takes.
So what did you learn from that process? Well, we have a few minutes left and see if there's any questions. Because like I said, you come across as an expert, you were able to secure funding, you were able to secure sponsors, you were able to secure support. And so I think that it's a great way to potentially end the night, to talk about how even as a newbie in a way, right, in this space, you can still make wonderful things happen. And whether it was your drive, your ingenuity, your creativity, you still figure out a way to get there. So what words of inspiration will you share with others who may have the same incline, a calling in their heart, but they may just be fearful to take that first step?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I don't know. I think it's my passion, right? Like I love what adaptive sports has done for me. Like it has completely changed my life. And so I want to be able to share that with the world and especially with other people with AMC. I still look at that video and I'm like, I'm the only person in that video that has AMC, and that's not okay. I want more representation. And so I think for those that are getting started, I think it starts with passion. And I think you have to love what you're doing and you have to love it enough to like get out of your comfort zone. I I don't like asking for money. I don't feel comfortable with it, but I do love adaptive sports and I do love what it does for me. And so I'm doing whatever I can to be able to bring it to the conference. Um, and so I think that's where you start is the passion and just putting one foot in front of the other, so to speak, or one wheel, whatever works for you. But uh, I think, yeah, passion for me is what got me going because it's not something that I'm comfortable with. And doing that video, I said it was many, many takes, but the more I did it, the more comfortable I felt and the easier it became. And it didn't feel as, I mean, it's still scripted, but it didn't feel as scripted and as uncomfortable the more I did it. So it just takes practice.
I think you're a superstar, Kim. We might have to get you to do all of our commercials and campaigns.
Oh boy. Okay.
Love it. Love it.
And
Well,
what, go
we've got
ahead.
3 minutes. Maria, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that you really brought home the power of storytelling, between your photos and the transformation and the passion and how it inspired you. It takes away, not it takes away, it minimizes how much of an ask there's to be done because the story itself basically did it for you. And for those who may not be able to do a video, there's other ways that they can do the storytelling. And sometimes it's just sharing what's in your heart, what's on your mind, what your passion is, one-on-one or even groups. And so storytelling can be powerful no matter where it is that you take the story. And sometimes, if you're lucky, but it's more often than not, people will say, how can I help? And the moment they ask that question, that's your door opener to really say, how would you like to help? Would you like to volunteer? Do you have an employer? Can you help with a fundraiser? And at that point, you have not only their support, but hopefully a friend for life as well.
Absolutely. And Kim, Anna, I love your passion, your drive behind all that you're doing. Anna, I know this is your first event. I'm really, really excited for you. I know you will do very well. I know both of you are you pull at heartstrings, you know how to story tell, and fundraising will be the absolute knock out of the park for both of you. So I have faith in our community to support you. Everything you've said has resonated with me. I do a lot of hustling on Facebook for donations, and so I understand. But let me tell you, for every 1,000 no's that we get, or 1,000 maybes, or maybe next year, we do get people that say yes, and they do want to support us. They do believe in us. So we thank you. We thank everybody in our community who has hosted a fundraiser, a lemonade stand, a yard sale, AMC Music Festival. Thanks, Valerie, if you're watching. Everyone who helped support us along the way for the last, 20 years? It's crazy. So yeah, I can't believe it. I can't believe it. But yes, so any final words, Maria, before we head off for the evening?
Goodness. Keep telling your story. Keep championing for the cause that you believe in. And it doesn't just have to be AMC. Hopefully there's some takeaways from tonight that will inspire people to support and move forward, advocate for, create awareness, love, and financial support in any aspect of your life for any organization, for any cause that you believe in. We all have multiples. We tend to have, Aaron was talking about pets before, and we adopt pets and that are maybe on the euthanasia list and do things with kids and veterans and so on and so forth. So wherever your heart may take you, hopefully there's some takeaways from tonight that will resonate with you and inspire you to take this to the next level. And if you find it in your hearts to do that for us, for AMCSI, just know that you have a family and partners in us to walk you through this process, to help outline a blueprint that can inspire and help others, to get on phone calls and brainstorm, and to get on phone calls and close the deal, as the salespeople will say it. So whatever it is that you need from us, we're here as a resource, and look forward to many opportunities to connect with all of you out there who may have unique opportunities that we may not even know about yet. And the possibilities are endless. So let's make it happen.
Absolutely. All right, Ted, shut us down.
Well, we want to thank everybody for joining us tonight. And we supplied the links for AMC and me and the Adaptive Sports fundraisers tonight in the video feed on Facebook. So be sure to check those out. And we will have these videos also live. Well, not live, but set up on the website at our Together Tuesdays webpage. Tonight's word, so if you're watching still, is fundraiser. So if you are still with us, and we hope that you are, please email us that word at info@amcsupport.org, and we will send out an item from our shop. And with that, we want to say, be safe and be strong, people. See you next week.
Thank you, Aaron. Thank you, Kim.
Yeah. Thank you.
Anna.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us. Thank you for your efforts and thank you for your inspiration. Good
Thanks,
night.
Maria.
Later.
Good night,
Much
everyone.
love.
Night.